They get them food, they can let them swim and float on them, they do whatever for them. But one of the things, if you ever know the term mama bears out, it's like a woman can be this kindest, sweetest angel, okay? And then if you mess with her kids, mama bears out. It's, forget about it, khalas, that's it, you're dead meat. So today we're going to do a little bit proactive, interactive style talk with you. We're distributing right now a piece of paper, and if you don't have pens, we'll pass out pens too. Maybe if somebody can help Missy in the back. So everybody take a sheet of paper. We're going to talk about 10 examples of women in the Bible. This actually wasn't my idea. Somebody last Sunday, I was going to talk about something else, and they said, hey, how about talking about this? And they gave me a couple examples, and I thought this was a lot more appropriate for Mother's Day. And it's really a lesson for moms and dads. But so we're going to talk about 10 examples of mothers in the Bible who knew how to fight. And اليوم كله هيبقى خناق and then from each one, we're going to see what we can conclude as far as a lesson we learned from. Let me put this out. I will tell you about what we're going to do. We're going to hand out the sheets, and then with each one, we're going to try a lesson that we learned from this mother as far as how we should fight for our kids, or about what, okay? And hopefully with each one of those examples, we'll try to write something new, something different from the others, okay? There will be some overlap, but let's try to come up with something different. So, the first one we'll start with, so there'll be a lot of Bible reading, so I want you to follow with me. The first one we're going to talk about is Sarah. This is in Genesis 21, 8 to 10. So after I read the passage to you, you will tell me what lessons we can learn from Sarah, and then you can pick whichever one you like and write it down on your piece of paper. You will take the paper with you home. So this is Genesis 21, 8 to 10. So the child grew and was weaned. The child is Isaac. And Abraham made a great feast on the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Some translations say mocking or playing with her son Isaac. So I think because he's older, right? So roughhousing. They're boys playing. But Ishmael was playing a little bit harsh with Isaac. Therefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son. Okay, so this is the first one. Are there any lessons we learned from here about women who knew how to fight? This is not a sermon. I'm waiting for you. Samia, we have some mics here. We can hand them around so that everybody can hear.
I can start. I say we can learn that.
لا Samia الأول.
Oh, Samia, sorry. Apologize.
And then we'll
Sorry. Sorry. I didn't.
Go ahead, Sam.
We have to separate our kids from the bad kids, that they can learn from them.
Okay, help. So separate them from any bad influence, any potential dangerous influence. Okay, what else? No?
But,
that's what you were going to say?
We can say also that you have to have a very precise decision when it is critical. So
be resolute when it is. Don't be wishy-washy moms or dads. Okay. Anyone else? Something new? Okay, help. I like the sound, so we can move on. Okay. Esther Adikede Henry. Okay. Oh, well, that's what she should have done. But I'm talking about we're looking for lessons from what she did. That's what we're focusing on. By the way, some of the stories will be showing lessons. We'll have many, many lessons. But I want to pick the lessons that have to do with Mama Bear. Just focusing on this. Sorry, I wasn't clear. Henry?
I think one thing here is she was kind of trying to plan ahead. Like, he's not going to be heir with my
Bravo.
son.
Very good. Sarah? Wow, كل ده from first one. Okay, go ahead.
Look out for their safety.
Look out for their safety. Very good. Okay, Missy, and then we'll quit.
Weaned.
Weaned him. Okay, what do you mean?
Like she allowed him to not get touched.
Okay, let's think into another dimension. We're actually going to get to some of that later on too, but that's right. Also something that's common that I see maybe more in the Egyptian culture, maybe in any culture really, when sometimes the father is detached or the father gets involved only to rebuke and discipline and punish, and there's no that masculine love, sometimes the mom haram, what's she gonna do? So she feels like she has to overcompensate, and then she dotes on the child so much, she does what we call, she becomes like a helicopter mom. You know what I'm saying? Enabling, does everything for him and does not cut the interest strings. We deal with this problem a lot, you know when? Yes, bravo. When they get married.
Not in my.
When they get married, the guy is used to, mama does everything for me. Mama, she's so happy because this is love. But then he's expecting to be married to mama number 2. And haram, the wife is like, guess again. Okay. So the main thing I wrote out of this is, but there's many lessons. You just pick one that resonated with you, one that you like. You don't have to pick one or two, it's okay. The one that I was picking out of this one is eliminating potential danger, which is what Samia mentioned actually at the very beginning. Eliminating potential danger. Potential is keyword. We don't have to wait until this friend, this influence, the internet, the school, the مش عارف ايه, is gonna be direct cause of danger. Potential. We need to think ahead. Okay, number 2. Hagar. We اتكلمنا على Sarah, so we have to talk about Hagar. So the same thing here. This is Genesis 21:14-16. Then Hagar departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat down across from him at a distance of about a bow shot. A bow shot, if you throw an arrow, that's how far. For she said to herself, let me not see the death of the boy. So she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept. And what lessons can we learn from Mama Hagar? Pray for them. Okay.
She's not pray.
Huh?
Did she pray?
It says at the end what? She lifted her voice and wept. Do you remember what Pope Shenouda said about what prayer is? A tear is a prayer. A sigh is a prayer. A crying out is a prayer. Looking up is a prayer. Standing in silence is a prayer. You know, God told, when he said to, where was it? I don't remember. He said, the wages of the laborers whom you did not pay are crying out to me. These are like they're inanimate objects, they're coins, right? He's saying those, or the blood of your brother Abel is crying out to me. So all this stuff in a prayer.
Apparently she maintained some hope and fought to the end, because even though the water ran out, she put him under a shrub to protect him from the sun. Maybe he will remain alive for a little longer until something happens.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else? We had a lot more lessons from Sarah than from Hagar, which is okay. طيب. I think y'all have covered what I had. The first one is actually she left. When they kicked her out, she didn't fight. She didn't say, no, like this is my son too, I stay. Or she didn't stay next to the camp like some people would do. But she actually departed because she figured, okay, Sarah is the wife of the master, right? So if I stay around, if I stay close enough, she can easily influence. She can easily influence. Sorry. Oh. tripped. There's no power on the power strip, معلش. No, الباور strip مش جاي لحي البريكر ضرب. Sorry, let me see if I can connect directly to the Apple TV. Right, while we're working on this technical difficulty, I'll just speak out loud a little bit, and we'll do that. So the first thing is that she left Bardo to protect Ishmael, her son, from potential danger, because Sarah is the wife of the master, so she could easily later on tell one of the servants, go kill them, or go do something to them, and they will obey it. So she didn't sit there, even though it's her son's right, right? It is Ishmael's right to stay there in his father's house. That's why Abraham had a hard time doing this, but God told him it's okay. Do what Sarah's telling you, because he knows he'll take care of her as well. The other lesson we already talked about is that sometimes Hagar reached a point where there's no hope. There's no water, there's no food, there's nothing in sight. We're in the middle of the wilderness. We're both gonna die. My son's gonna die. There's nothing I can do for my son. So she lifted up her voice and wept. Sometimes, as parents, hopefully none of us will be at that position, but we may see our kids do things that we have no hope for them in any way. But at that point where we really don't see any hope for them, one of the most powerful things that we can do is just lift up our voice and cry. Like St. Monica did for her son, St. Augustine, and for her husband as well. I don't know if you know the story. We talked a lot about it, St. Augustine. But her husband, Bardo, was not good. She was like the original But she would lift up her voice and cry out until both of them came to God. Okay. I guess we'll just keep going. Maybe I'll read for you the verses. Oh, that's right. The Apple TV is not getting any power, so how will it come on? So I'll tell you the passage. You can pull out your phones if you want to look with me on what we're going to read. The next one we're going to talk about is Rebecca. This is in Genesis 27, verses 12 and 13. Genesis 27, verses 12 and 13. So, y'all know the story of how Rebecca was telling Jacob, her son, how to trick Isaac to get the blessing. Okay? And this is the part where she heard Isaac telling Esau, look, my life is about to end. Go hunt something, because Esau is a hunter, and make this special dish for me and make it for me so I can eat it and bless you. And Rebecca heard this, and so she quickly, you know the story, right? She told Jacob, go ahead and get a goat, and we'll make this food for your father. And he told her, well, let me read it to you. This is Genesis 27, verse 12 and 13. Jacob told her, perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, because Jacob was smooth-skinned and Esau was hairy. And I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. And then Rebekah, it says, but his mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go get them for me, the goats. So one may say, she was willing to take her son's curse on herself. So that's one lesson right there. We're going to talk about the dysfunction and the lesson we're learning. But the point was, she was willing to give up herself for her son. She was willing to take the curse on herself instead of him. That's a lesson right there. And I realize this is easier said than done. I wonder how many of us would do this. But before you make a decision on Rebecca's, first let's read what happened a couple of chapters prior in Genesis 25, and so we can see why she did this while she was pregnant with the two boys. Okay? So this is Genesis 25, verses 21 to 23. It said, "Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah his wife conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, 'If all is well, why am I like this?' So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 'Two nations are in your womb, two peoples shall be separated from your body. One people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger.'" Now, what lessons do we learn from Rebecca? Or from this story? Rafa?
She trusted God's promises and worked in order to help those promises be fulfilled.
Very good. So trust in God's promises. Okay, what else?
I will say self-sacrifice, like she sacrificed. Your curse will be up on me.
Self-sacrifice.
And
Very good.
This reminds me with Saint Paul when he said, "I hope that I was like abandoned from Christ for my people." When
For
he was
their
talking
sake.
about this.
Good. Well,
This is partiality. I consider it partiality to Jacob.
okay.
Shouldn't do this, will leave. God can do it in a different way.
Very good. Very good. Can everybody hear, or do I need to repeat their answers? The mics aren't working right now, so. Thank you. I know what we do without the technical support. There's always things that need work. Okay, so one lesson you mentioned, Rafat mentioned, is having total faith in God's promises. We read God's words, we are comforted by God's promises, but short time. Yani, I don't know, we don't, again, you show me what you believe by how you live your life, not what you say. You show me what you believe by how you live your life. And if a person believed on God's promises, then they will continuously and consistently behave based on God's promises, knowing the results will happen. They do it expectantly, they do it with hope, and they do it consistently. Not just, okay, we'll try it out, no, nothing happened. And okay, so we have the voice. Now if we can get the Apple TV, that would be great. At least we don't have to scream. The other lesson is that, now not all the lessons are, and Yusuf, remember he said what the average person, hopefully, will learn from their own mistakes. But the wise person learns from other people's mistakes. So we learn from this. The other lesson is that she took matters into her own hands and did something wrong to make sure that God's will happens for her son. Mothers, or all of us really as parents or servants, need to be careful not to allow ourselves to do something wrong for the sake of making sure God's will happens. If it is God's will, it will happen, but it will happen in His time. I always say this: doing the right thing at the wrong time means doing the wrong thing. So just because I know what God's will is for this person does not mean I should allow myself to do something wrong to make His will happen. Okay? Because I shouldn't excuse myself to do something wrong to make God's will happen. So we had so far Sarah, Hagar, and Rebecca. Number 4 is Yochebed. You all know who Yochebed is? Moses' mother. Okay. So this is Exodus 1:22, the very last verse in Exodus 1, and then Exodus 2, verses 2 to 3. I will read that to you. So it's I started with Exodus 1:22 because you see how chapter 2 begins. So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. You all know why this happened, right? While the Israelites were prisoners or were slaves in Egypt, they noticed that, wait a minute, the Jews are pretty fertile people, and they're like increasing in number. Pretty soon they will overcome us. And so this was the advice that was given to Pharaoh. And he said, okay, any males that are born, kill them. We have enough. So this we don't want them to have like an army and overtake us. So go ahead and kill them. But the girls, go ahead and save. Okay. Sorry. Interruption. All right. How about a hand for the technical team? Thank you so much. Really, all have no idea what happens behind the scenes to keep things moving and working and running in the church. There's so many people that do a lot. Very good. So he gave the order to kill all the male children. Now in Exodus 2 it says, so the woman, Yochebed, conceived and bore a son. When she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrush for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank, and released it in the river. So, what do we learn from it, Khaled? Sarah?
Do what's best for your child, not for yourself.
So you can, we have the mics now, so you can, so everybody can hear you.
To do what's the best for the child and not for yourself.
To do what's best for the child and not for yourself. Good. Lee.
She got to the end of the rope. That he's gonna be dead anyway, one way or another. So she just gave it a chance, even the slim to none.
Okay.
It's gonna be killed by bears, or it's gonna be thrown in the water.
Okay. Very good. Bishoy.
So she had the boy for 3 months, so she had the courage. She knows like the consequences
Of hiding,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, if they could have like slaughtered, if they found out, and it's a baby, you can't guarantee he's gonna stay quiet. And they could have slaughtered the baby and her and the whole family for trying to do this. Yeah.
Even you are in slavery, don't lose the hope.
Even if you're in slavery, don't lose hope. Okay. Henry.
She did like Ishmael because she did it with hope. She put him in some basket, gave him a little bit more time, like
Okay.
Ishmael's mother did.
Okay. So, anyone else? Anything new? Something new? Yani let's. Okay, Rafat, and then strong faith. Okay, how?
That she has the hope that he may live anyway.
The hope that he may live. Okay. Raf.
After she did everything she could, she continued caring for him by sending his sister to watch what will happen to the boy, and she ended up being his nursing him. So she kept.
Maybe. I don't know if she had control over this. I mean, like once you
She
release it
tried.
in the river.
She tried, but she sent Miriam.
Oh, I
to-
think
to-
Maryam was Afrita. It doesn't say that she sent Maryam, right? Like Maryam kept watching, his big sister. So she's gonna be a good mom too. But no, yes, yani doing what you can.
Also,
So Ayo, go ahead.
that you do your part. So she think about an idea. She made the bell brushes and she put it. So she did as much as she can. So she did something at least, not to lose.
To do something. Some parents can basically once a week or something they have their tea party where it's like gripe session where they complain about their kids or their kids and their husbands. Yeah, but And that's all they do, instead of thinking, okay, what else can I do? Is there something I can learn? Is there something I can get educated in? Is this some sort of counseling? Is there something else? We think of a few things and it's not happening, so we just give up. So yes, number one, the obvious one is that she risked her life for her son Moses and really the life of the whole family. The second lesson is like what Sarah said, to do what is best for the child at any cost, even if it means putting the child in extreme distress. This is a baby sitting in this dark basket with the rivers taking him. I don't know if you're familiar with the Nile, but from what I hear, it's not a very safe place to swim in. And so she risked. Sometimes, how do I say this? We know what is best for the child. We know what the right thing to do is, but because it's disappointing, frustrating, or scary for the child, we say, okay, Habib, it's okay. We don't have to do this. That's the point I was getting at here. This was extremely stressful for little baby Moses, but she did it because it's best for him. It's the only hope really she had for him. Okay.
It's what every mother does. They hide their child from the world that they know is going to hurt their child. They hide him for as long as they possibly can while he grows, and in the end, they do everything that they can to keep the world from destroying him.
That's a very nice, positive way of looking at things. As they hide the child as much as possible, and then when it's time to release him in the river of the world, yalla, go with God.
They do everything they can.
I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I remember when my daughter was in college, so we had friends that their moms would drive from out of town a couple hours away 2-3 times a week, bringing food, doing laundry, making the bed. So I just want you to focus on studying. This was not good. We didn't do that with our kids. But anyway, okay, so we had Sarah, Hagar, Rebecca, Yocheved. Okay, number 5, Naomi. This is in Ruth. Oh, I can just read it to you now. You don't have to go find it. Okay, Naomi, this is Ruth 1:7-15. So I'll read to you. I'll try to be quick. So of course we know the story that Naomi and her husband and 2 children left Jerusalem because of famine, and they went to the land of Moab, and for whatever reasons her husband and her 2 sons died, but they had married Moabite women. Say Moabites. Anyway, and so now it's Naomi and the 2 daughters-in-law. So Ruth 1:7-15. She said, therefore she went out from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, so as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest each in the house of her husband. So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, surely we will return with you to your people. Let me keep reading. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go, for I am too old to have a husband. No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. Okay. What lessons do we learn? Who's the mother in this story? We'll break it down. Naomi. Okay, so what do we learn from Naomi? Remember, we're focusing on Mama Bear. Okay? So let's keep the comments related to that. So here. Selflessness. Very good. So she wanted to do what is best for Orpah and Ruth. Even if it meant, خلاص, she's alone and what do they say? من ريحة المرحوم. they're all the connection that she has left to her departed sons. I saw a bunch of hands. Okay, Bishoy, then Joseph. Go ahead.
I guess we can learn perseverance. This lady has been through a lot. She lost her husband, she lost her 2 sons, and she's in a foreign land. And she still relies on God, and she believes in Him. So that's a big lesson, I guess.
Perseverance. As far as motherhood, like what do you need?
I can say. I can. Oh, sorry.
And she's like, consider the daughters-in-law as her daughters. After everything she went through, these people are foreigners. Like she's in foreign land.
Yes.
So she still consider them as her own daughter.
Very good. Very good. Now, remember, you know what the state of a widow is back then, right? It's horrible. It was horrible. There's like, you're basically left to beg, and you like now become like the birds, just hoping God will send you some food somehow, and you're on your own. You can't work, you can't do anything, you're not given anything. It's just a really miserable life. Now, and she's old. Now, having 2 young, strong women, they could do something, right? They could help, maybe they can work, maybe they can bring food for the 3 of them to eat. So it could mean survival for her. But she was like, no, y'all go to your families. Okay. Okay, Mariam and Munir and Philippe.
The beginning of the story, she's like Mama Bear. She tried to find food for her kids, so she left her country.
Oh, good thinking. I didn't even think about this one. Very good. I don't know if it was her decision or her husband's, but they did leave the country to. Yes, it's the parent decision. Very good. I wonder if in our lifetime we realize that life in the US is not good for our kids. Would we stay or would we leave? I think we would leave. We've done that already once, so I think we would leave. I just don't want to think about it. I won't be able to, but Messi and the kids can go. I have to stay with my church. Okay, Munir?
I will say there is a great lesson from Naomi that she is mother by practice, not by biology. So she practiced motherhood with her children and with the daughter, like the wife's daughter. So she's mother by practice, not
Very
by
good.
just biology.
Now, notice Orpah and Ruth, they didn't just say, no, we'll stay with you. And then she said, no, go. They said, okay, see ya. No, they really genuinely wanted to stay with her. Having no idea how the Jews are going to treat them, what kind of a life they have, this is a foreign land and all that stuff. But they sincerely wanted, they weren't expecting they were going to get married again. Life is going to be a very hard life. But they wanted to go with Naomi and do this. This is a very good sign, is that she loved them with true love. That they wanted to stay around that love so much. Okay, Philippe, and then Fadi.
Munir just said what I was planning
Oh,
to say, but also the motherhood, not blood related, and we see this sometimes in animal kingdom where a dog can feed a small kitten, and it's just a motherhood. It's not really. It doesn't have to be biological motherhood.
Yes. What was that gorilla that could do sign language? What was with little cats? Huh? Coco, yeah. Like adopt those kittens, and she liked kittens with a cut off tail for some reason. She had that was her favorite actually. If you see the story, it's very interesting. Fadi.
Gotta be something in Naomi that made Ruth got attracted into her. Even she was in the foreign country and she was still worshiping God the way that it should be done. This is how she attracted Ruth.
Very good. She didn't leave her faith. Okay, Rafat and then Mari. And then Rima.
I will pick from where Munir indeed. Both her daughters-in-law had male relatives that can take better care of them physically and everything. But they felt more safe with her, not because she is stronger than their male relatives, but because she is a mama bear in a way of love. And I think she loved her two sons a healthy love. The healthy love is not to just have the child for myself, and after they marry, some mothers try to keep the child to themselves. But the healthy love is to love their wives, and because she loved them first, they loved her in return.
Yani, in light of this, I just want to say something, and then Mariam, and then Rima, and then Samiha. For when your kids get married. واحدة تقول ياسمين دلوقتي, we're not saying anything. Amen.
Live them.
Preach it. You have to let go. I have seen, I can't count how many marriages ruined. خلاص, they're divorced now. Because it's been typically the mother. I don't, yani the fathers, we don't care as much. But we're too involved, and they want to be a part, they want to talk for an hour every day, they want to go in there, look at their mail, and this is extremely selfish. This is doing what's good for you. This is not doing what's best for the kids. So when they get married, if they get married, leave them alone. And if you do, they will come and see you. If you smother them, they're gonna run away from you. Okay, Mariam and Rima and Sami.
So I would say that the hardest thing for a person to happen to them is to lose a child, and she did not act bitter. She could have been like entitled, like, I'm sad I lost my child and I can be as mean as I can, but she just kept acting with love.
That's a very good point. That's what I love about discussion, is because everybody gives something from a completely different point of view. How many times have you allowed yourself to treat the kids poorly because you were tired or stressed or exhausted or didn't sleep well or not feeling well or all that? And the kids espouse to everybody around you. So sometimes we need to watch for this. The fact that I'm tired enough, sick enough, exhausted enough, sad enough, stressed enough, worried enough, I should not allow myself to use this as an excuse to be a mama bear on the people I'm living with. Yani, if I can't do anything, just run away. Go close your bedroom door or something and try to reconnect with God and get rejuvenated so you can come out. Haram for them. They get the short end of the stick sometimes. Rima. Okay, whoever gets the mic, remember to flip the switch on.
I wanted to mention something related to what you have just mentioned, to let go. Maybe it's not exactly related, but he said it in a different way. Gibran Khalil Gibran said, أولادكم هم ليسوا أولادكم هم أولاد الحياة. They are in the word, let them go, basically. So it's exactly what you're saying. It's a beautiful way of looking at it. Let go and they will come back to you.
The children of life.
Of life.
Yeah.
And also I wanted just to say that the way I saw it is that she loved them more than she loved herself. So this is the way I see the interaction here.
You know, sometimes some parents prefer to not let their children go to universities that they got into in far cities. Not because they're worried about the lifestyle over there or the bad influence, because those are legitimate reasons, but just because they want them close to them. And that's so unfair, yani, to deprive the kids from these opportunities just because I want to be able to see them a lot more regularly, and I want. Okay, Samia, and then we'll move on to the next one.
I was saying the same thing that you said before. She's a very successful mother. She's a very example that all the mothers has to do the same thing that Rose did, not the opposite. And you know, in our culture, it's really sad. Like you said, we make our kids miserable. So why? We should let them go and they enjoy their life, and you know, we just pray for them. That's it.
You know what's ironic is that parents who do that, and as the kids begin to get older, while they're still in high school in the house, and they back off a little bit, the kids want to come and visit and hang out and stuff. And those who try to keep them, the kids can't wait. Sometimes they can get accepted in this school and that school, but like, I'm gonna go to the farthest across the country, you know, to another state, just so they can get out of that nest. Huh? University of Alaska. Okay. Y'all said everything I had here. The simple fact that her daughters loved her so much, even though she's from a different culture, is an indication of how much she loved them. She's old, being a widow, we already talked about this one. Later on, as we know from the story, Naomi did her best to set up Ruth for life, right, with Boaz and all that stuff. So she was still able to take care of her daughter-in-law as her daughter and set her for life. I don't know, as Boaz, like a symbol of Christ and so on. Okay, number 6, Hannah, the mother of Samuel. So this 1 Samuel 1 and 2, I'm sorry, 1, 11 and 12. So we know the story, Hannah couldn't have children, and Peninnah, her, I don't know in English what that term is, her husband's wife, the wife of Elkanah, her other, not sister-in-law, her wife-in-law, I don't know what they call it. Anyway, like she was not so nice to her, and like she was very sad. And back then in the Old Testament, it was looked upon like this is a curse from God. God is not happy with you because the Messiah will not come from your line, so this is like a bad sign. Anyway, so as she was praying, you know, and Eli said, you know, you're being drunk and on all that stuff. In 1 Samuel 1:11, she said, I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head. I'll just read all of them. We're skipping, Yani. This is in 1 Samuel chapter 1 and 2, but in different verses. Verse 24, now when she had weaned him, she took him up with her and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. This is in verse 2, chapter 2, sorry. Her prayer in front of her son Samuel. Okay. I think I'll have to just pull that out. Okay. Let's pull out, actually no, I'll just do it right here. So 1 Samuel 2, 1 to 11. I want to read for you first. So follow this prayer. Remember, this prayer she is praying in front of Samuel. He's standing right there in front of her. And Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoices in the Lord. You'll notice, by the way, a lot of her word choices are said by whom? And closer to King David in the Psalms. It's like you wonder where he gets this stuff from Teta. My grand Teta. My heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. I smile at my enemies because I rejoice in your salvation. No one is holy like the Lord, for there is none besides you, nor is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so very proudly. Let no arrogance come from your mouth, for the Lord is the God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and those who stumbled are girded with strength. Those who are full have hired themselves out for bread, and the hungry have ceased to hunger. Even the barren has borne 7, and she who has many children has become feeble. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and brings up. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and lifts up. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts up the beggar from the ash heap, to set them among the princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them. He will guard the feet of his saints, but the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength no man shall prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken in pieces. From heaven he will thunder against them. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. Then Elkanah went to his house. Okay, so if you look at this prayer, it's like the creed, all of it. Basically, it's like the faith, talking about God, about how you hang in there, you walk with God, even if you you know, it seems like the other people are waiting or things aren't going your way, you're gonna keep with God, and so on. So it's like that prayer by itself is like a life lesson. It's a life method. It's a way of life that she's teaching her son just by praying this in front of him. We're going back to the talk in 1 Samuel 2, verses 18 and 19 says, "But Samuel ministered before the Lord even as a child, wearing a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother used to make him a little robe and bring it to him year by year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice." Okay. So, what do we get from the first two chapters of 1 Samuel from Hannah? Hanny, then Esther.
She's committed. Every year she would go check on
Very good. Every year checking on him. Commitment.
In spite of being in desperate need,
I put the mic by your.
in spite of being in a desperate need to have a child, and her other sister was teasing her continuously, but she looked at something far from that, that there is no good servant to serve God. So that's why she said this, the child you give me, I'll give it to you through all his life. But this is, sometimes we don't even agree to send our children to nursery or things like that.
Very good.
But this mother was really, selfless.
She was awesome, yeah. She, simply put, she loved God more than Samuel. Of course, she loved Samuel. He's the awaited child that she's been waiting and praying for with tears for years and years and years. But she loved God more than Samuel.
And he became the best prophet.
Yes. Okay. Rafat and then Shon.
She trusted him to the Lord even though the days of Eli, the high priest, was the worst days in the history of Israel because of his two sons. And by common sense, no mother would entrust her little child to grow up with the man who failed to raise his own two sons. But she knew that being in the temple, God will raise him.
Very good. That's a good point. It was any mom would be like, I'm not going to send them among these people. Remember what Hophni and Phineas would do? How they would like take the sacrifice that they want. They would like sleep with the. It was bad for sure.
Well, I guess everything about Hannah, she was praying all the time. So she was, like it says, her prayer in front of her son Samuel. So she was teaching him how to pray all the time. I guess she was a life example of like being a good mother,
Yes. Notice that. Does anybody else want to say something? Joseph, go ahead.
She named her child a prayer.
Very
To
good.
remind herself for the rest of her life. She named her child a prayer so that she would remember.
His name is.
God listens.
Yes.
Ismael. Samuel. If the Lord listens, God listens. Right?
Yes. Yes, actually, she's very clever because it means two things. God listens, and it also means Ismo Il. His name is God.
To establish a strong life for your kid, start with praying. So to teach your kid how to pray, you have to pray. So don't tell him pray, but pray. And it said pray in front of someone. So I'm sure this is how some will learn how to pray.
Okay, so she role modeled for him the prayers. Very good. Notice something too, that when she went every year, like Hanny mentioned, it wasn't just to give him the new tunic. It was to do what? It was regular, consistent tutoring, teaching. Because Samuel, he was, I'm sorry, technical difficulty ever. No, the problem is with my device. Hold on 1 second. as it tells us that Samuel ministered to the Lord as a young child. Even as a young child, it says he. Where did he get all this from? In the matter of those first 3 years, usually until she weaned him back then, it usually meant 3 years, right? I don't think it was any longer. So in the matter of this very short period of time, she was able to teach him enough to minister to the Lord, to serve the Lord, and to be able to hear the Lord.
Whenever I visited every year, I think she was also teaching.
Teaching him every year when she goes to him, correct. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. Ya Rab. Here we go. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, y'all. So she was an excellent teacher to him. She continued to follow up with him annually when she took the tunic with him, and she made sure. This is one thing we didn't mention. She made sure that he grew up daily, literally in God's house. It's very frustrating to me and doesn't make sense to me that, okay, hear me out. I totally believe that learning a sport is very important for the child. Learning maybe a musical instrument is very good for the child. But it doesn't make sense to me that parents are willing to drive their kids around town, maybe split up in 2 cars, 4 or 5 nights a week. But then when there's different services being offered in the church in the middle of the week for the children, they're like, no, Sunday is enough. We need to learn from the mama bears here. Okay, number 7, I don't know her name, so I just called her the unnamed mother. Yo. Okay. The unnamed mother. Can you tell from the picture where this is?
Yeah, the 2 mothers came to Solomon.
Came to Solomon, exactly. This is 1 Kings 3:16-28. And again, we're thinking about different lessons only from Mama Bear, not other lessons. Now 2 women who were harlots came to the king and stood before him. And yes, we can learn even from the harlot. The wise person learns from anything and everyone. And one woman said, "O my lord, this woman and I dwell in the same house, and I gave birth while she was in the house. Then it happened the 3rd day after I had given birth, that this woman also gave birth. And we were together, no one was with us in the house, except the 2 of us in the house. And this woman's son died in the night because she lay on him." So she was turning, and I guess she's a heavy sleeper, maybe she exactly. So she arose in the middle of the night and took my son from my side while your maidservant slept, and laid him in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I rose in the morning to nurse my son, there he was dead. But when I had examined him in the morning, indeed he was not my son whom I had born. Then the other woman said, "No, but the living one is my son, and the dead one is your son." And the first woman said, "No, but the dead one is your son, and the living one is my son." Thus they spoke before the king. Then the king said, "Bring me a sword." So they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, "Divide the living child in 2, and give half to one and half to the other." Then the woman whose son was living spoke to the king, for she yearned with compassion for her son. And she said, O my Lord, give her the living child, and by no means kill him. But the other said, Let him be neither mine nor yours, but divide him. So the king answered and said, Give the first woman the living child, and by no means kill him. She is his mother. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had rendered, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to administer justice. And Amy.
It's the compassion of the mom that she would give to the child because she loved him. She cared for him because it's genuine love.
Yes.
Genuine.
Love does what's best for the person. Missy. She knew her child even after 3 days. How many of us know our children? Also, I don't want to freak you out, but kids are a lot smarter than you think. And yeah, I can't tell you the shock that some parents' faces when they found out that their kid does this and this and this and this and this, and they thought they were like, yani, maybe they argue a little every once in a while or something, but they're like, they would never have imagined. And how do you know someone? All kinds of things, by spending time with them, being in their life, know what they do, know who they hang out with. Yani, I know parents who don't let their kids hang out with anyone until those kids come to their house and they meet them and sit with them and talk with them so they can get a feel. And with some they say sure, and with some they say no, I don't want you hanging out with this kid. But mom, I saw him in this vicinity, Joseph.
She's like Jochebed, and she's like Ruth, in that when she sees that her presence in her child's life means she can't contribute to her child's wellness, she's ready to forgo the honor, the title, the whatever, for the sake of her child.
Yes.
And when she can, insofar as she can contribute to her child, she does. So she's similar to the other. It's a theme.
To even forego being able to lay her eyes on her child ever again, maybe. Or maybe she would still see him because they're in the same house. Fred, you had your hand up? The same thing? Missy? Okay, use the mic, please.
Something that you said about knowing your children. I know that the whole purpose of this is to teach like mother bearing techniques, and I agree completely with what you said about knowing your children, but there are times when as a parent we have done all of those things in order to know our children, and our children are keeping themselves from us. So I just didn't want anybody to feel like if that's the situation, then it's because they did something wrong, because it's possible that you did everything right and then the child is still, for whatever reason, keeping themselves.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that we need to trust our kids with assignments, with doing things, and at the same time we need to not trust them. I don't know how to say it otherwise. We need to trust them and not trust them. Yani, don't rely on the obvious. No?
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. There you go. So number one, yes, y'all said it. She knows her son. By the way, all these lessons that we're going for, we're gonna, after we're done, real quick, we're gonna see how we can apply those today, within our world today. Hopefully nobody will have to put their kid in a basket and cover it with pitch, but how, we can learn from those today. The second thing is she was willing to do what is best for the child, even if it meant that there's a chance she never sees the child again. Number 8, the widow of Zarephath. This is in 1 Kings 17. I'm going like just in chronological order, like in the Bible. 1 Kings 17, 8 to 16. Then the word of the Lord came to him, to Elijah, saying, Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. So he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, indeed, a widow was there gathering sticks, and he called to her and said, Please bring me a little water in a cup that I may drink. And she was going to get it. As she was going to get it, he called to her and said, please bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. So she said, as the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in, prepared for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said to her, do not fear. Did I change it? Yes. And Elijah said to her, do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first, and bring it to me, and afterward make some for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord God of Israel, the bin of flour shall not be used up, nor shall the jar of oil run dry, until the day the Lord sends rain on the earth. So she went away and did according to the word of Elijah, and she and her household ate for many days. The bin of flour was not used up, nor did the jar of oil run dry, according to the word of the Lord, which he has spoken to Elijah. Before you share your comments, again, focus on her motherhood. There are many lessons here, but focus on her motherhood. Rafa.
She trusted God's provision over the physical provision. Some of us, if we have very low income to survive, we would say we cannot pay the tithes because our income is not enough. But she trusted that God will take care of his child. She made the cake first for the man of God before her.
Okay, and she did this in front of her son.
Yes.
She did this in front of her son. A lot of times as parents, I guess maybe I'm kind of burning the end part because I'm talking about application today, but a lot of times we can talk a really nice, good, spiritual, wholesome talk in front of our kids, but when it comes to application, what we show them is selfishness, lack of faith, fear, concerns, like things like that. And we need to be careful that they're going to do what we do, not what we say. They're going to do what we do, not what we say. She could have been talking about how God provides for us and all that stuff, and then he could be seeing this interaction with the man of God saying, no, go make for me first, and then you won't run out. She'd be like, I don't think so. But no, she actually did that in front of him. Okay, what else? Kathy.
She spoke, before she kind of knew where Elijah was coming from and had the reassurance of the provision of God, she first said, well, now hang on, my son and I need this. Like she spoke up for her son, knowing I can't share something that I have. My first responsibility is to my son.
Very good. So her first responsibility is to her son, and it was only after he told her, don't worry, speaking on behalf of God, you won't run out of oil and flour, then she believed and did that thing. That's a good catch. Very good. Anyone else? Okay. In verse 9, where it says, see, the Lord told Elijah, see, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. So she had a soft heart, attentive to God's direction of what to do in front of her son. And then in verse 12, she said, I may gather in a couple of sticks that I may go in and prepare for myself and my son that we may eat it and die. She does her best with whatever resources or energy she has left. Sometimes all that we're able to do is kind of like Hagar. All that she could do was lift up her voice and cry. There was nothing else she could do. This mom, she didn't, I'm not going to say what she didn't do. Basically, she did everything she could do with the resources she had. I know. I don't know why women are allergic to putting these back in the basket. After every Sunday, by the way, I collect about 5 or 6 of those from different races. But haram, I know they're busy with the kids and stuff, so they... Thank you, Noah. He's going to make a great deacon already, paying attention to stuff. And then in verse 15, she went and did according to the word of Elijah, the prophet of God. By her doing this, she put God first before her son, in front of her son, and let him know. Okay, we're going to hurry. 2 more and then we're done. The Canaanite woman in Matthew 15. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. The woman with the daughter who was possessed? Okay. I'll read you the passage. Matthew 15, 21 to 28. Don't forget to write the lesson from each one. I hope y'all didn't forget. because we're going to share all those together now. Then Jesus went out from there and departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon, and behold, a woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out to him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Lord, son of David. My daughter is severely demon-possessed. But he answered her not a word. And his disciple came and urged him, saying, Send her away, for she cries out after us. But he answered and said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then she came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. And she said, Yes, Lord. Yet even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered and said to her, O woman, great is your faith. Let it be to you as you desire. And her daughter was healed from that very hour. Should be lots on this one. Faith and persistence. Negro. Huh? Humility. Yes. But what does humility have to do with good motherhood? Missy has an answer. What does humility have, Missy?
I'm not sure if this is the answer to your question, but
Thank you, Kathy.
She had like an understanding of really like the reality of the situation. You know, like sometimes when we were talking before about when we watch American Idol and the people get up to sing and then they're told like, you sound terrible. And they're completely shocked because the people in their lives evidently have been lying to them the entire time and telling them they sounded great in, you know, to be nice, but really that was a horrible thing that they did. It seems like this lady had a grasp of reality. Like she knew the situation, she knew where they stood, and she communicated that. I don't know if that's what you were looking for.
I don't know what I was looking for. I just wanted to ask actually general, a connection between humility and good motherhood. I think one thing is maybe that she was willing to accept anything that happens to her for the sake of her child. And there's no way she'd be able to do this if her love was not combined with humility. Because if a mother who loves her child went to somebody that could help the child and this person talked to her wrong, if she is prideful, she'd be like, forget you. I'll try somewhere else, I'll go somewhere else. She wouldn't think, but this is the best person that can help my child, you know? She might not let it happen. Follow? Okay, I saw Henry, Esther, Joseph. Okay, Henry. I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow the order of the hands came up, so forgive me if I'm in the...
I think it's just like you said, Abuna, that her pride did not prevent her from begging for her kid. So this is a big lesson, because I think one of the obstacles in front of everybody in their lives is their pride. I need to be, and this is me, look at me, you can't do this to me. But if she does that and just doesn't give herself for her kid, she didn't care about what was told, what was said to her, and she persevered. She kept running, you know, and saying, God help us, God help my daughter. So perseverance and basically just taking anything just for her daughter.
Joseph? Or Joseph or Bishoy? I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say just along those lines with Henry, it's just not, it's a great quality of the mother is selflessness. I mean, if she doesn't care about herself, she cares about the outcome of her daughter being healed, and she didn't really think of herself a lot. She just wanted the outcome.
Yes.
If the Lord Jesus told me, you're a little dog, the blessings I have aren't for you, they're really for the children, you're not even my child, I would go away very, very desperate. Especially this woman believed in the Lord. She approached somebody that she believed in, and the one that she believed in turned to her and called her a little dog and said, you're not even my child, I only give this stuff to people who are worth it. That would have crumbled me to my foundations. And it probably would have crumbled her, except for there was another person in charge, and that's where motherhood comes in. She can't even accept the master of the universe calling her not my child, a dog, a little dog. And me, that is stunning. That she turns around and says, "All right, I'll be a little dog." But you're the master of the universe. You even care for little dogs. It's okay for me.
You're gonna come a little dog. I ain't leaving you. I'm not going away empty-handed.
That's fine.
Actually, when I thought about the mama bear and the mothers who know how to fight, she's the one who usually stands up with me because she kept fighting, wrestling with God until she got away with what she wanted. And remember when he ignored her, what did she do? She went after the apostles. I'm not leaving. Sometimes in the prayer meeting, I hope y'all can come in on Fridays, and some people when they pray, they're like, we're not leaving till you listen to the prayers. Okay, so Rafa, go ahead.
She also showed wisdom. It's the way she reacted to what the Lord said. She showed wisdom. She had a good reaction, and she also trusted that the little crumbs from God are more than enough.
Yes. And also notice the first time also when she said the Lord did not answer her word, she came back and she said, Lord, help me. Sorry, when he answered and said, I was not sent except for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, she had no answer because she's not in Israel. But Lord, help me. That arrow prayer. Okay. Y'all said everything. Her faith, even though she was not a Jew, she has not been taught anything. Her persistence when the Lord ignored her, and she went after his disciples. After he rejected in verse 25, she kept fighting, wrestling with God. She accepted the humiliation for the sake of her daughter, and she remained calm and kind and respectful even after being ignored and then humiliated in public. And she was very smart and witty. She used everything that she had in her power to help her daughter, all those in this fight. The last one, of course, we can't go without talking about is St. Mary herself. And I know if we talk about the virtues of St. Mary, we'll stay till next Saturday. But we'll just take from these a little bit here. Luke 2:35. Again, we're talking about the motherhood part. This is Simeon the elder when they went to present the Lord into the temple. And Simeon said, yes, a sword will pierce through your own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. Luke 2:49-51. And he said to them, why did you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business? This is when he was 12 years old and they were looking for him. And she came and told him, your father and I have been worried sick. We've been looking for you. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject to them. But his mother kept all these things in her heart. In John 2:3-5, it says, and when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine. His mother said to the servants, whatever he says to you, do it. Is that okay? I just picked a few that have to do with her mothering him. Okay, forget all the other stuff. Focus on them and lessons from those verses. You want me to just read them to you? Rafa, go ahead.
She kept these things in her heart. As the child grew up, she was observing what happens and observing how God works. In this case, her child is God himself. But in the case of other mothers, watching how God deals with her and with her child as he grows and keeps this in the heart, give her a resource enough when the hard moment comes in the future, she will remember how God was doing all these things with her life. Okay?
Easy hand up? No? Time. So it said, putting God's will and his plan above her motherhood and love for her son by allowing a knife to pierce her heart, to watch her son go through all kinds of hardship for God's will and big plan. One of the best things we can teach our children is that we don't love them more than anyone. Is that we love God more than them. And actually, even that, we love our spouse more than them. This is very good and very important and healthy to teach them those things. To tell your kids, I love you more than anybody is not, it's not wise. It's not wise. By telling them that I love God more, and then your father or your mother, and then you. This is putting things in the wrong order. And believe me, they will not feel left out. They will feel more secure because they are in their right place. From Luke 2:49-51, when he was an adolescent, you can almost see that in his tone. She respected his boundaries. This is something we don't do well with our kids. Because they're our kids, this is my house, this is, we don't respect their boundaries as we would with other people. I can imagine the amount of lecturing and nagging and stuff if this was any other mother. It should be talking with him for a long time about having left them without saying where he's going. And lastly, believing in him and his capabilities and what he can do, and showing him that she believes in him. Of course, it's the Lord Jesus Christ, he doesn't need that from her, but we need to show our kids that we believe in him, not by telling them, you're so awesome, bravo aleik, you're the best, Hercules. We don't do that, okay? No, I know some of you don't know what I'm talking about, but no, the best way to build confidence in our children is to tell them, I trust you to do this and to do it well here. This is your task, go do it. And to back off and not micromanage and let them do it and try and fall and whatever. Eventually, when they succeed in doing this, this builds the best kind of self-confidence. And then supporting his mission throughout all the way until his death and resurrection and even beyond. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over the list real quick so you can see what you wrote down and if any of it matches. Eliminating potential danger, that was Sarah. Using the power of heartfelt tears with God for her child. No? Did somebody call me? Hagar. Not putting the child's welfare ahead of God's plan and timing. Risking her life for her child. Doing what is best for the child at any cost, even if it means putting the child in extreme distress. That's Yocheved. Modeling God's love and willing to suffer if it's better for the child. Loving God more than the child. Teaching God's statutes from a very early age, as early as possible. That one is Hannah. Role modeling godly living from a very early age, as early as possible. That's Hannah too. Doing what's best for the child, even if it means she doesn't see him or her again. That's the woman with Saul. Having a real, genuine, intimate, personal relationship with God for herself. Loving God and putting Him and His will and plan above the child. Fighting for the child, even if it means wrestling with God for the child's sake. Respecting the child's boundaries. And then lastly, believing in the child and his or her capabilities by trusting him or her with progressively significant and important tasks. More and more significant, more important tasks. Okay, now what about us today with our world? What are examples of these things? And I wish I could show both screens at the same time. What are examples of these things today in our life? We kind of addressed a lot of them, but just tell me something about today. Okay, I'll start the conversation. Raise your hands if your kids play video games. Okay. Have you researched, looked up, or played those games or seen what they're about? Or don't raise your hands anymore, but this is something. Do you know what those games are? Like, there are games out there. Some people say, hey, video games, no big deal. There are games out there, like, there's many others now. There's, what's that one? GTA. Ask the kids, tell them, what's GTA? Tell me about GTA. It's a game named after a felony, Grand Theft Auto. Is the person, I think if I understood the game well, the person goes around, steals cars, and then commits crimes with the cars. That's the game. Grand Theft Auto. That's the thing you're playing on. I don't know, I know there's this game called Fortnite that's extremely popular nowadays, but I don't know what it's about. Anyway, so that's researching and studying and knowing. Okay, what else? Tell me. Huh? Be in touch. God bless you. Again, Fanny? Oh, okay. How about your own personal relationship with God? One of the best things you can do for your children. How about being really, really, really good friends with your spouse? It's one of the best gifts you can offer your children. Not putting sports or music or extracurricular activities before godly activities. Not necessarily church activities, but just godly things. How about doing what's best for them, even if it makes your kids extremely distressed or unhappy with you? Sometimes we can't bear our kids being unhappy, so when they have this temper tantrum, we say like, okay, never mind. Anyway, so let us try to remember from these women some of the lessons that we went about here, so that we as parents at homes and our Sunday school and whatever, we can apply them in our life. And glory be to God forever. Ameen. What do we have now?
The adult choir.
Adult choir. Wow. طب عايزين يقف فين؟
يلا.
المايك.
منير شوف
بلاش نقف نروح. صوتي طلع يعني؟ ها يا جماعة ازيكم؟
You guys have any pens? Pass it down the aisle. Pass it down the aisle.
أنا هعمل يا جماعة
مايك مايك
انا كمان كل الكواير يا وريما ريما كل الكواير
You're part of the choir.
When did that happen?
Like in here. You came.
Thank you. Thank you.
لازم واحد يشد.
Okay, I hope you saw the schedule out there. Most of you didn't, I know. But one of our program today is a surprise. And people keep asking what that surprise is.
Surprise.
Yeah, the surprise is Rafat will have this surprise for us.
Introduce.
No, you
Okay.
introduce it.
I didn't have this surprise. I was asked you. So, what is it?
This is the
I've got a
surprise.
question for you. May I sit next to you? Okay. I'm sure all mothers here, especially the young ones, can use some of words of wisdom from a good and experienced mother like yourself.
No.
Yes, few simple questions. Very simple questions.
Yeah, the most important that
Yeah, you make my life easier. Okay, you know, throughout with the journey of raising children, there are some joyful moments without being specific to which child. Try to be generic. Like, what are the most joyful moments in your life raising your children?
Say when they got married. When they were ordained deacons by Amba Basilius, the Metropolitan of Jerusalem.
Wow, I didn't expect this answer. So you did like someone's mother, you were happy by giving it to the Lord?
Yes.
Very nice. What other
And the second moment when...
Watch the camera, watch the camera.
But he's here, I don't want you to hear it.
He's here. He's here. No, don't play with it
At
because
the
of the
time
camera.
of his ordination, but I was, I don't know, happy and crying a lot. but-
Why you were
No, no,
crying?
I don't know. Maybe
Don't touch
from
it.
happiness,
Okay.
or maybe from feeling that he will be responsible for, not
felt-
for himself only, but for a huge number of people. He will be responsible in
Yes.
front of God, but God is helping.
So,
Nope.
if your
Voice.
son is our father, what this makes
No.
you to us?
You are all my children.
Now this makes you our sister, because you also call him father, right?
Yes.
Call him Abu. So you are the son.
No, still you are all my children.
And we love you as the mother.
Thank you.
Okay, how about the difficult moments? I started with easy ones.
Yeah, no. The difficult moments were that because of our culture, yani, I couldn't put a strict boundaries between me and them. I was still very emotional. I wanted to protect them. But when I grew more, I learned how to make boundaries.
So you were more mama bear when you were younger than when you got
Much
older.
more, yes. Mama Bear now is my grandchildren.
Okay, so we all know that raising children is very challenging task and it's very difficult. What are the sources of energy mothers receive to keep going? What gives you energy?
I used to pray, ask God. I used to pray really in hard times and
Really?
ask God, yeah. Because in many places we were alone, yeah. The families they were not around us. Like in Dubai, in a country that's very strange to us, you know. Have to be very careful. I used to ask God and pray a lot. I used to do mistakes, but still I used to pray and God used to guide me.
This is the main resource, but can you tell us our resources? Everything comes from God.
I used
What
to-
are the things that keep you going despite all the difficulty?
It's the church.
The
I
church.
used to live in the church and serve in the church, and I used to learn from others a lot. I used to watch and learn.
Very good.
Yeah.
If the time go back, if you go back in time, what are things that you may do differently?
I will send them out to the house. Well, they are much younger than that. Yes.
Okay.
To let them depend on themselves.
Very good.
But it will be very hard.
Yes. Okay, so we learned that the church is our mother.
Yes.
So tell the other mothers, how would they learn from the church as a mother? What are the characteristics of the church as a mother that every mother can learn from the church?
Oh, I learned that you shouldn't force your children to listen to you and to come to the church. Try to explain to them how and why, and if they insisted, don't force them, and by time they will love you, and you should be an example for them. Yeah, you should stand and pray better than telling them, come and pray. So you should learn from that, and again, you should give them a distance. Even if they are young, give them a distance and put some boundaries. This is the most important, actually. And if you sit and read in the Bible, it will stay in their brains, and when they grow a little more, they will do the same.
Like, how's the church? The church has so many children. What are the characteristics of the church concerning her treatment to her children that the mothers can learn from? How does the church treat her children?
Love, number one.
Love.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional.
To everybody, if it's my child or others' children. And I should always put God and feel God in front of me. The way I treat them, God will tell me. He will sit with me and tell me, what did you do?
Does the church treat her children differently?
I don't know. I don't know that. I don't think so.
The church should not treat.
The church is good with all the children.
The church love all her children
Yes,
equally.
yes.
Right?
And the church is bringing generations and generations. And in spite of all is happening in the world now, still we are trying to protect our children.
Also the church. It's the last. That's sub question. We're still on the same question with the church. What is the main message of the church? The main purpose of the church? What the church try to accomplish to her children?
To keep our apostolic church to continue, not to change at all, to stay on our first base, the apostolic basis of life, service.
So the human mother should also stick to the principle.
Yes. This is very, very important, because nowadays there is lots and hundreds of different congregations, and I don't know if they are diverting away from the main church. Yeah.
Well, the church also try to mediate between the children and the father, which is God. How the mother should learn from that.
To also mediate between the children.
Yes, you know,
Yes.
children sometimes want something from their father and they are hesitant to ask. So usually go to the mom.
Yes.
And the mom go and speak on their behalf, right?
To God, yes.
Yeah.
Or if the question is not the right one, she can teach them to wait. And
She can filter
Yes.
their requests to the right ones and take it to the father. Yes. And Esther, we thank you. Happy Mother's Day, and remember us.
Thank you very much.
This was surprise only for Tom. We know that. But now we have a surprise for all mother and ladies in the church.
for choosing her to be that mother. And I also want to wish Happy Mother's Day to my mother, as thank her for not killing me, basically, just putting up with me all these years until today. And finally, just a wonderful Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers who don't say it enough. And I've said it many times, the mother's not the one who gives birth, but it's the one who toils, serves, sacrifices, and loves and cares. And the love of the mother is really the closest love that we can offer to the love of God. Happy Mother's Day, and we look forward to many, many more.
I thank the Lord for His blessing and for making us together as a couple, husband and wife. بشكرها كتير لأن هي متحملة معاها طريقة الكفاح وربنا يبارك فيها. I pray always that God keep us safe and blessed in His name. كل سنة وأنتم طيبين.
Mother's Day, I love you. You are the best mom. I miss you.
Mario, happy Mother's Day. I'm so happy to have you in my life. Thank you for everything you have done for us and for our kids. Thank you so much.
Happy Mother's Day. We love you.
كل سنة وأنت طيبة يا ميرا. Happy Mother's Day. ربنا يخليكي ليا وتبقي دايما معايا كده في كل حتة. كل البدايات اللي بنبتديها مع بعض. دايما supporting me. ربنا يخليكي لينا.
كل سنة وأنتم طيبين بمناسبة عيد الأم. والحقيقة السنة دي عيد الأم جاي يوم 12 مايو وهو نفسه تاريخ عيد جوازنا. أنا وولادي سنة طويلة يعني شغل فعشان كده العيد ده عيدين احنا فرحانين أوي. وأحب أقول لبناتي كل سنة وأنتم طيبة يا أحلى أم في الدنيا. وكل سنة وأنتم طيبة يا أحلى زوجة كمان. وإن شاء الله أشوفك فرحانة على طول مع ولادك ومع ولادك إن شاء الله. ويا رب يرحمنا ويسعدك ونعيش مع بعض في فرح وسلام على طول. كل سنة وأنتم طيبين وعيد سعيد.
Sally, I want to tell you happy Mother's Day from me and from the kids. We love you. Thank you. We appreciate everything you do for us.
Full disclosure, they're making me do this. No, but seriously, I love you and you mean a lot to me, and I just want to wish you the happiest Mother's Day ever.
Hi Mom, happy Mother's Day. Love you. 45 days, 2 kids and 2 grandkids. The wonderful wife. I like you cooking. I enjoy every meal. God bless you. Stay healthy. Take care of yourself. And I love you.
Happy Mother's Day and ربنا يخليك لينا وفينا.
So what can I say about Suhail? The best thing I can say is what Proverbs 31 said. A wife of a noble character, who can find her? She's worth far more than rubies. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. So, there is nothing more I can say about Suhair. You have raised wonderful kids. They love you, they cherish you, they are strong in the Lord because of you. You have supported me in some tough times. You've taken care of all of us. God bless you and happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. كل سنة وانت طيبة يا حبيبتي. عام سعيد عليكي وإن شاء الله دايما أفضل كتير علينا إنك امرأة فاضلة من يجد وأنا سمنها يفوق الآن.
Happy Mother's Day نانسي، كل سنة طيبة وعقبال 100 سنة كده وانت في وسطينا. سبب بركة لينا كلنا ودايما بتمتع بينك وإن شاء الله يكون عيد سعيد عليكي وكل الأمهات.
كل سنة وانت طيبة يا ماما. Happy Mother's Day.
Hi Sergio, happy Mother's Day. It's really wonderful to see you with the kids and show that true love that a mom only can give. And every single day, not only on Mother's Day, but every single day, I just want you to know that from my bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. And happy Mother's Day again.
ميرسي كل سنة وانت طيبة. هابي ماذرز داي. ميرسي تعباناكي أنا بوكو مغلبينك ومسهرينك وحاجات كتيرة. ميرسي على كل اللي بتعمليه معانا. ربنا يخليكي.
أقول لك لولا كل سنة وانت طيبة وعقبال 1000 سنة وأنا قضيت معك وقت حلو قوي ما عنديش أي مشاكل وربنا يسعد أيامنا لغاية ما ننتهي وكل سنة وانت طيبة.
I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for all the men who helped us taking this video because you really give us hard time, really. But they love you guys, they love you all, from all their hearts, but they don't want to be in video. I don't know why. You're all awesome and cute. Yeah, camera shy. Thank you so much for coming today, and we're waiting for Abu Nasir. He will give you the gift for today.
Ladies, come forward please. All the ladies.
Ladies, not the gentlemen.
الرجالة يتفرجوا بس. Come, كافي.
يلا يا جماعة قوموا.
ساعد بعد شوية.
يلا تفضلوا مريم. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Mother's Day. Mother's Day. Vegas, Santiago Maria. God bless you. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
So here, Happy Mother's Day.
Buy one.
نشوة كل سنة طيبة. منين؟ كويس ما شفتكيش كنت قاعدة ورا ولا ايه؟ كل سنة طيبة. هابي ماذرز داي. هابي ماذرز داي مام. شفتي بقى الكلام؟ I know. God bless you. Happy Mother's Day. كل سنة طيبة طنط. كل سنة طيبة. سيدة هابي ماذرز داي.
في شوكولاتة.
ما خبرش. كل سنة طيبة. مها. كل سنة طيبة حبيبي. ربنا يخليك ويحافظ عليك. ميرسي. هابي ماذرز داي. مريم. اهلا ريما. هابي ماذرز داي حبيبي. God bless you. ميرا. يلا هابي ماذرز داي حبيبي. كل سنة طيبة.
لا بصي في العدسة.
ايوه.
خليكي دايسة بقى شوية.
اوكي.
مريم بدي عشان
ريما.
حد اخر اثنين؟
مريم.
هي مريم جاية. حد ثاني؟
الآباء بقى.
للناس اللي سجلت الفيديو.
يا ابونا هشوف مريم الناس اللي معاهم اللي هي
فوت علينا يوم 5 منه. 5 فيش.
I can't wait to see what they will do for Father's Day. I'm so excited.
ابونا is hinting at something.
From us, we have like octopus later on. It's like gathering up kittens.
مريم اخذت
قالوا لي انها اخذت يعني انا مش لاقيه مريم اللي هي الدكتوره مريم مش لاقيها.
يكتب في القراءة الروم. لا أخذ.
هبه اخذت هبه
Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of you, and I want to thank the team يعني that they worked very very hard. كل المريمات. I really appreciate all that you've done. They've been working for this for a long time, and I know because they asked me to reserve this Saturday and not fly anywhere. So we feel done coming. For the Santa Taibin, Vespers is at 7 p.m. for those who will be able to come back. And tomorrow is a normal schedule. For the Santa Taibin,